If y'all please pray with me. Dear Lord, let the words from my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be pleasing in your sight. Amen. I titled the message today, Maintaining a Christian-Centered Positive Attitude. I don't know about y'all, but I tell you, it can be real challenging at times. And for me, it all hinges on how my thoughts go. Now, if you're here to hear a sermon, you're not going to get that. But if you're here to hear a story, I'd like to share with you something that happened to me and how important it has been in my life. Now, I've taken a page from George Burns' playbook. He said, now, if you're going to speak in church, you need to have a really good beginning. You need to have a terrific ending. And the two of them need to be as close together as possible. So I'm going to work on that. Have you ever taken a trip or embarked on some activity and you knew exactly how it was going to turn out? You knew exactly what the food's going to taste like, the view, you know how the smells are going to be, everything. You were planned down to the minute, and you knew everything that was going to happen, only to have it turn out totally different. You know, the kid got sick, I got sick, car had trouble. You know, just there's all a myriad of things because it's typically something bad. But I tell you, what I wanted to share is an occasion for me that it did not turn out the way I expected, but it turned out to be a profound thing in my life. I've shared some of this with some of you, and if so, then bear with me. You got to hear me again. But they always say you have to hear things 7 times before it becomes a fact, so, you know, I'll do this again. But it played out like this, and I'm sure that God was part of this as we went along. I was living in Wisconsin. I was working incredible hours. We had just bought a power plant, a nuclear plant that happened to be the worst in the industry in all categories. So everything about my life had to deal with work. I had a little time for anything else. I kind of felt like Jonah on steroids, to tell you the truth, because it was swallowing me whole. That's supposed to be funny. Okay, well, chalk that one up. This will be short. No, but I was in Green Bay, and in Green Bay, you're sandwiched between 2 5-star hotels. You got the American Hotel down in Kohler, and you got the Grand Hotel up on Mackinac Island. And if you've never been there, you need to put them on your to-do list because they're in the top 25 hotels in North America. They're really awesome. And my wife wanted to go, but I had work to do. And finally, she had had enough, and she said, okay, we're going. So we're going to Mackinac Island. Now, Mackinac Island has no mosquitoes, has no ticks, has no motorized vehicles, and has 42 fudge shops. So and it has the Grand Hotel. So this is exactly where I wanted to be. Movies were made after it. Marlene Dietrich, Christopher Reeves, there was movies. So if you have never watched that, you need to watch that. Well, I had planned the time down to the minute, only to forget, and you have to take a ferry to get across to it, only to forget there's a time zone change. So as I parked the car, I'm all proud that I'm rolling to the ferry, only to hear the whistle say goodbye. And so we had to sit there another 3 or 4 hours, and someone was staring at me. I don't know who you'd know that would be. Okay, but that was on Saturday. Sunday morning, everything went great, man. We were going to eat I was going to try a piece of fudge in all 42 fudge shops. We were heading down the hill. You got to walk. And no sooner did I get by a rock church. Now, this church, very, very small. It was built in the 1600s by the Hudson Bay Fur Trading Company. No sooner did we get by the door, you couldn't have drawn a straighter line, the bell went off for the start of service. Well, what are we going to do? 42 fudge shops, the bell went off, and I'm afraid that was right there a signal to go in. Now, I don't know what I had for dinner in that 5-star hotel. I don't know how many pillows were on the bed. I don't know how many flowers. There's like 50 rocking chairs out front. I don't remember what they felt like, but I can tell you one thing. I remember the message that I heard in that church. And that's what I want to share with you today. So these are not my words. These were God's words speaking to me through this guy. And he was a pastor that was a previous chaplain in Bosnia for NATO. His message was 3 points. And those are the ones that I want to share with you today because they have been powerful in my life. I still worked too many hours, but I found that because of those 3 points, I tended to spend more of my time in Christian thoughts than I did before. And I hope, and I figured that my faith is a journey, and that's okay. So I'd like to share the things with you. And the first one is, you control your remote. Nobody else controls your remote. If you don't like your channel, or if somebody in your life looks at you and says they don't like the channel you're on, you have the capability of changing it. And that's what he did. And I think he was looking right at me when he said it. I was like, okay. All right, but you control your remote. And so often we get caught up in and we just resign ourselves to there's nothing else we got except for what life is at the time. And when I was getting ready for this, I thought about the message out of Luke 19. And that's the story of that tax collector that climbed a tree and met Jesus. Well, so often we don't necessarily like the path we're on. And we kind of feel helpless to do something about it. And as I prepare for today, I wonder, why does Zacchaeus climb the tree? He's a tax collector. He can just get anywhere he wants. All he has to do is say, Chad, get out the way. I want your spot. He's a tax collector. He could have gone anywhere he wanted, but he climbed the tree. Why did he do that? Well, the Bible says he's short. Okay, so he's short. He can still tell, sorry, Dennis, get out of my way. And guess what? Dennis is going to get out of his way. All right, so I wonder, why did he do that? And I think the reason is he didn't like the channel he was on. He didn't like what his life meant. And if he would have just simply said, get out the way, life would have been the same as it always was. And I think by doing this, by saying, I don't like where I'm at, he climbed the tree, he did it himself. He wasn't the same person and going about business like he used to. And so to me, that's the message I got out of the tax collector, is that, he wanted to change the channel. He didn't know how. And the next thing you know, Jesus said, come here, I'll show you how to do that. So recently, I was complaining about the heat. I played in a golf thing on Wednesday. Whew, man, it was hot. There were 2 wildebeest and a zebra went by. I was like, oh, man. So I'm complaining about the heat, and I'm thinking, I got to get out of here. So I'm looking at how I'm going, because in my mind, I'm like, I don't like this. I'm looking for a place to go. And a dear friend of mine said, well, do you think that place would be better than the air conditioning you're in now? And I'm thinking, well, no, it's not. And so anyway, I changed my attitude. I changed my thoughts, and I thought, you know what? It's okay where I'm at right here. So the second thing that he said, besides this, is you are the keeper of your thoughts. No one else drives your thoughts. No one. And how often have we wallowed in self-pity? Have we wallowed in this and that and the other? And I have. I'm not proud of it. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes that feels good, doesn't it? Huh? I want to wallow today. I just don't like today. And so it actually kind of feels good sometimes. And so, but the important piece of it is you are the keeper of your thoughts. Nobody else drives you there. Philippians 4, verse 8, that Perrette read, dwells on positive things that direct your thoughts. Whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, admirable, praiseworthy, it promotes a positive mindset. And I believe that. It cultivates optimism. So as I was preparing for today, I came across Corinthians chapter 13. Remember that one? That's that gooey wedding thing, which kind of irritates me because it's really, really good. But now it's just because it's love. It's the relationship. But, it really is, to me, very important as an individual because it teaches us how to think. It teaches us that love is patient. Yet this week I was playing golf with my grandkids, and there were these 2 guys behind us. I let them play through. The guy couldn't get the tee in the ground. So there we are, standing there. It's hot, and he's just a pushing. And he didn't try a different place. He just kept on pushing. If I'd had a hammer, I'd have gave it to him, but I didn't have it. But I started losing my patience. I started going, gee whiz. Well, I don't know what's in that guy's life. I don't know why he couldn't push that thing in the ground, besides it was like concrete. But, and so I had to remind myself, and thank goodness I was preparing for today, because otherwise I probably would have been a little impatient. But the fact that I was preparing for the day, I got patience. Watch this. And I think I showed my grandsons a little bit of patience. Love is kind. It doesn't envy, doesn't boast. It's not proud. See, these are not just lovey, old gooey things for a wedding. They are serious things on how you think. Does not dishonor. It's not self-seeking. How many people, and I do it myself, it's self. I want a little recognition. I want a little pat on my back. Maybe two of them. Chad, hey. And so you have to kind of watch for that. So anyway, there are a whole bunch of those things that I think is very important. The second one was Proverbs chapter 16, verse 3. And it's in the King James Version. It says, commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. And it brings me to the third point of today. You become what you think. You become what you think. And if you dwell on the negatives all the time, you're going to be a bitter person. If you dwell on, just not liking people, this, that, and the other, you're going to become what you think. And it's because you dwell on the wrong things. So I know I have to really, really work hard at that. So how did the message impact my life? Well, I still spent too many hours at work. But what I found is when I went through the gate, I used to just put the whole world behind me and just focus on work. Well, I made a point to say to myself, okay, Lord, kind of give me some Christian thoughts today, And sure enough, I did that because I was allowed to focus on it, and I could think about it. And therefore, my reaction was more of a Christian-centered day. Sometimes just simply listening to a Christian song helps recenter me. It's very easy to go through your week and never do anything. Got church on Sunday, and then the rest of the week I kind of slide. I don't know about y'all, but I can just go like this. So something during the week sure does help me. And what I found is I don't have to listen to Christian music all the time, but I can flip over to it and hear a song or two. And guess what? It recenters my thoughts. And by recentering my thoughts, it recenters my behavior because I become what I think. How many times have you walked in a restaurant? Mom and dad sitting there on their phones, all three kids on their phones. Nobody's having dialogue. There ain't no family time. Nobody's asking, how was your day? And you have to ask yourself, now, is that young in there, are they in control of their thoughts, or are their thoughts being controlled by something else? So that's something to keep in mind. And I try hard now, and especially after preparing for this, I'm going to try to leave my phone in the car and not take it into the restaurant, and to see if I can do better with that. Now, the word works. I always tell people I like to do working at church because it keeps me grounded. Sunday's not enough for me. I love Tuesday. I like Tuesday with lunch, and I love the Bible study. But guess what? I can backslide so fast, make your head swim. Good day? Ooh, I might have to play golf. I might have to do this. So it's very easy for me to backslide. But I do know that the works that I do at the church makes a difference in my life. It keeps me grounded, and it keeps my thoughts where it needs to be. I was able to witness to a close friend in, oh boy, I better hustle up. Old George Burns said, I need to shut up. But I will share with you, I shared this one time with a friend of mine in Virginia. His son had come back from Iraq, and his son was really struggling. And the son knew he needed to change the channel, but he didn't know how. And he just was really wallowing and really suffering. And I'd made a comment that, hey, he needs to change the channel. and he said something. I said, well, now there was this pastor up there, and I explained it to him, and he shared that with his son, and his son said, I can do that. I can do that, and it's all in my thoughts. My thoughts will change my behavior. And guess what? He popped out of it. And my friend has used this several times in church to help people. So what I did is I'll keep on going first. All right. So what happened at the hotel is when I got done with the church, I went home or back to the hotel, and I used that nice, pretty, expensive stationery because, by the way, this 5-star is not cheap. And I filled that thing out, and when I got home, I wrote down those 3 things, and I went home and I threw them in the drawer. And so each one of you have a card today. You don't have to write them down, but what I found is the fact that I wrote them down it really did make a major difference in my life. So if you wanted to write down the 3, take it home, throw them in a drawer. Maybe one day your kid, your grandkid, yourself, your spouse, your mom, your dad, somebody might need to hear this, and it might be something to remind you to share it with them. Because what happened is I was wallowing. When my wife passed away, I was wallowing in self-pity. I was mad at God. I stopped going to church. I just kept saying, why did you take her and not take me? And I said, if I make it to heaven, we got some questions. Well, what I found is, I was just wallowing for about 18 months. And then one day, I was messing around, and guess what? That little card that I wrote down fell on the floor. I looked at it, I went, ooh, ruh-roh. And I sat down on that floor, and I started thinking about where I was at and what I needed to do. And guess what? I was able to change the channel, and I was able to change my thoughts, and it made all the difference in my life. My brother, he suffered 3 years and 11 months with pancreatic cancer. I never knew him to whine. I never knew him to blame God. I never knew him to ever get down. And the reason is he kept his thoughts clean, and he kept his thoughts Christian. And so I believe all 3 of these things to be true. And so, if you want to write them down, I think it's a good idea, because for me, it changed my life. When I opened that thing up, it changed my life. So, to recap, 3 things. 1, you control your remote. If you don't like a channel, or someone around you doesn't like the channel, change it. Look at it. See what you need to do. And these are not my words now. He was much better than me. And his message, he was phenomenal. All right, item number 2, you are the keeper of your thoughts. Take that responsibility seriously as it governs your life. If you find yourself wallowing, you find yourself negative, I have to work at it all the time. I have to work at doing things that 1 Corinthians said to do. It's not gooey stuff. It is serious. Love is. Well, thoughts are is really what it should say in my mind. And ultimately, you become what you think. Therefore, surrounding yourself with Christian activities and ideals keeps you centered. I know it does me, because I'm constantly going back and forth. And so it's been quite a journey, and I just wanted to share with you a moment in my life that actually made a huge difference. Thanks be to God. Amen.